Okay guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I thought I'd do something a little bit different and go through a digital art sequence to show you guys how to do some digital art using the iPad Pro. If you are using our standard medium, so that being like pencils, your inking medium such as your fine liners or pigment liners, and your Liquitex or Ecoline inks, you can go ahead and follow along. The only difference is that you'll need to do some tracing. We are going to be using the symmetry tool. So to do this, we're going to go into the settings here, go to canvas, turn on the drawing guide, and edit drawing guide. From here we can tap on symmetry, and this will give us a line straight down the center, and we're just going to hit done. Now what this does is basically whatever I draw on one side of the page, it gets duplicated on the other side of the page. So I've just got a sketching brush here, along with red that I've selected. I'm going to go ahead and sketch this. So basically if you're doing this on standard paper, just draw on one side of your page, like mark out a center line, draw on one side of your page, and then fold your page in half and trace it through the light pad. This way you get a symmetrical design that you can then trace onto your watercolor paper. So what are we drawing today? I thought we would go ahead and draw a traditional style moth design. In this case it'll be sort of like a death moth. It'll have that sort of skull imagery, although it's not going to be accurate to what a real death moth looks like anyways. So we're going to start by drawing in the area for our skull, which will be about here. And this is going to be a upside down egg shape, so a little bit wider at the top than it is at the bottom. Underneath this we're going to draw in the body of our moth, which is basically an elongated oval shape that sort of reaches a point at the bottom. And we're just going to throw in these lines as well, which are basically going to be like V shapes coming down the back of our body. From here we want to draw in the shape for our head, which is just going to be a little semicircle and two small circles for the eyes. And just above these we're going to go ahead and draw the antenna, which are just going to be straight lines like that, and then little flicks that come back like that to give us that sort of fluffy moth antennae look. In sketching the skull itself, we're basically going to draw a line across like this to give us placement for our eyes. And you're going to draw in the rough shape of how you want your eyes to look. And basically an upside down triangle with rounded corners as our nose, and they should form a little peak in the middle like this. Coming down from the side of where our eye is here, we're going to bring a line that comes down and out for the cheek. That's going to come down and just join up in the middle there for our top jaw. And you can put in some lines for the teeth. This isn't a realistic skull whatsoever. This is a stylized sort of, really bold sort of comic looking skull. Okay, to do our bottom jaw, we're basically going to come straight down with our teeth like this. Join that back up to the cheekbone, and then just follow a line down from the outsides there to give us the jaw. This gives us our skull. One other little point that I'd like to add is on the inside of the eyes, just some little circles. Again, this isn't a realistic skull, and you can play around with this and make it look how you'd like. This is just the way that we're doing it today. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start drawing in a shape for the wings. So we're going to come out from the top of the skull here and just rough out a shape. We're going to come straight out, maybe do a little point at the end there, and we're going to come back and join in here like this. You want that to join up just behind the body there, and then come back to about here, so about 2/3 of the length of the top wing. And for the second one, we're going to do this sort of shape. So it's just like a wavy sort of W, stretched out W shape. Okay, so to further refine the shape of our wings, in this case, we're going to do a smooth line all the way across the top. It's going to come back from its point there. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And just loop that right back around into the body. And then we can start adding a few details to the wing itself. Now the different patterns and styles of patterns vary depending on the style that you're doing or how you want it to look. We're going to do something nice and simple today, and I'm going to just do some sort of traditional design patterns for these moths. So we're going to do 2 lines like that, maybe a slightly wider one, and then I'm going to do some little curves like this. Just these curved lines. And I'll join them back into there. So this is basically just pattern work, and you can play around with it, have a lot of fun doing it, and don't stress out too much. There's no need to stress perfection at this stage. We're just messing around with patterns of what we're doing. So right now I'm just doubling up on those little loops that we just did, those little curved lines. So if you've ever drawn mandalas or any other sort of pattern work, I guess you could sort of base this on that and do something like that in the wings. You could also put some imagery in the wings, like some roses or something like that. Next, I'm going to double up on those lines there, like this. And we may do a big curved line like that. Maybe another curved line behind it. And then to link these up, I'm going to do a whole series of small, sort of thinner lines that are just going to fan out and sort of taper back so that they match the shape of our wing. For the ends of our wing here, you're just going to join these back up where those bumps are. And I might put in some spots, so we'll do one there, a few there, and across the top of the wing here, we'll do these sort of shapes. So like I said, there's no real trick to doing these. You're basically just playing around with adding patterns to the inside of your wing shapes. For the bottom wings, I'm going to add a secondary border on the inside of our line there, just following the general shape of it. I'm going to do a similar pattern to what we did above it by doing these 3 curves. And just to do something a little bit different in the bottom wings there, I'm going to go ahead and take a brush from my brush pack, the Daggett Designs brush pack, which as you can see has a lot of different Japanese design elements in it. Although this isn't a Japanese design, we can still utilize some of these in a creative way. I'm going to go ahead and take the cherry blossom and use that to mark out a flower in the placement that I want it to be. Might make it a little bit bigger and place it a bit higher up. I think that looks good. And maybe a slightly smaller one next to it. I think that looks really cool. If you'd like to pick up that brush pack, it's available at daggettdesigns.com.au. It is on sale at the moment for only $20. If you would like to, you can go ahead and draw in whichever style of flower you want to use. If you want to use something more traditional, these we will probably change in the inking phase to make them a little bit more simple and refined. From here, I'm going to add that same sort of border that we did along here around the flowers. So I might just come around each of the petals with the border, and I'm going to disregard my leaves in this case. I don't think I'm going to use the leaves for this particular design, and I'm going to do that border around both of our flowers. Okay, so as you can see, the sketch is finished. It's very quick and easy to put together this sort of thing using the custom brushes on the iPad Pro. That having been said, if you're doing this on paper, like I said, draw half your design on the one half of your paper, fold it in half, and then throw it on your light pad and actually just trace that half onto the other half. That way you have a full design that's perfectly symmetrical, just like this. And then you can go ahead and trace it onto watercolor paper to get ready for painting. I just thought I'd show you guys how to use the symmetry tool on the iPad Pro. We're going to go ahead and ink this one now, so I'm going to open a new layer, take black, and I'm going to go ahead and use the monoline tool, which is basically a line that doesn't variate its width and taper as it goes along. And this gives us a nice consistent line, especially for doing this old school or traditional style work. I don't particularly have a lot of advice or process in terms of inking this one. It's very similar to how I ink all of my designs. The only difference is we're not doing much line boosting or line sculpting, because this is a traditional design. I try to keep the line weight fairly consistent throughout the design so that it's nice and bold. Now, something I've got to say is I've really been enjoying seeing the artwork you guys have been making. If you guys want to see your work featured on my channel, or if you just want me to have a look at your work and review it, give you my feedback, please send me a direct message on Facebook over at Daggett Designs. I really enjoy seeing your work. It's cool to see that you guys are following my tutorials, and it's really great to see people getting creative and drawing. So speaking about doing digital art and using the iPad Pro, I actually have had a few people ask if the iPad Pro is worth it, what kind of features you can do with it, and I've had people ask, is it cheating? Do I think digital art is cheating? I have thought about doing a video regarding this topic, whether I think it's cheating, or do I think the best tools and features of the iPad Pro are for modern artists. And I have considered doing a video on this. I'm just not sure whether you guys would enjoy that type of content. Let me know in the comment section down below if you would like to see a video regarding the iPad Pro, what I think of digital art, and what I think the best tools on the iPad Pro are for digital artists, or even for modern day sort of tattoo art and that sort of thing. Okay, once you've finished your outline, you can get rid of your sketch layer just by unticking it. If you're doing this on paper or traditional medium, you obviously don't need to do that. We're going to go ahead and start coloring this guy in, or doing our black shading. We're going to go ahead and do all of the solid blacks first by dragging and dropping our color wheel here across to each section that we'd like to do solid black. And of course the symmetry tool helps us out here also. So we're going to do solid black for these little circles. I want to do solid black in the top of the wings. I would also like to do solid black on the inside of my flowers here. In terms of the skull, we're doing solid black behind our little circles there, and solid black in the back of the jaw there. To start shading this guy, depending on what brushes you have, I'm going to go ahead and take a airbrush, or in this case actually I'm going to go ahead and use the grainy smudges. This is part of the Battle Damage brush pack from Dave Tevenal at Battle Damage. You can go over to his shop at Big Cartel. I'll leave a link in the description down below. I purchased his brush pack, and it's loaded full of great lining and inking brushes, as well as a few different shading brushes as well. So we're going to go ahead and select that, and take our selection tool and put it on automatic. This way we can select entire areas of our design. We're going to go and start by selecting this area here. And just shading a little bit of black out like this. And this allows you to get a really similar blend to how you would on watercolor paper, giving it that real tattoo sort of illustration look. We're also going to select the outer ring to that, and just do a little bit of black shading coming down from the top and from the bottom up. So you can see how well this translates. If you're doing this with traditional medium like we normally would, you would be applying a little bit of black at the top of that shape and then blending it down to grey or white using your watercolor brush. I also want to select this area here and do some black shading, so I'm going to go ahead and select each sort of rectangle in between our lines here, and you need to do the same thing on the other side, otherwise it won't duplicate on the other side. And I'm going to go ahead and do solid black shading from the top through to grey and white, and the same thing from the bottom. Now again, if you're using traditional medium like we normally do, you'd apply a heavy black to the top and bottom of that shape and blend it across. For our wing areas here, we're going to select here and here and shade up from black. The same thing for the section above it. And you guessed it, same thing above that as well. To do the shading on our head here, we're just going to select this area and do black from the outside in, leaving a little white highlight at the very top of the head. We'll select the area on the top of the bottom wings and do a little bit of black to grey in there as well. Now selecting this outer ring on both of our bottom wings, we're basically going to do some black shading from the edges out to grey and on the other side as well, like that. And I'm going to go ahead and shade this background area to our flowers with black as well, and you're basically going to do solid black wherever there's, you know, a little corner or a nook or a cranny, and basically shade out from there into our lighter areas. For the shading on our body here, we're going to go ahead and do our little striped areas black, and then select each area in between it and just shade in from the edges. For the skull itself, I want to leave it primarily white, but we're going to select the bottom jaw and just do a little bit of grey black shading coming down from underneath the cheekbones. This will help that sort of stand out. Okay, so we've done all of the black shading. The next part we would add is color. Again, if you're doing this in the traditional medium we normally work in, you would now overlay the color over the top of your black, but in this case we're going to duplicate our line work again and put it underneath our black work layer. This way when we put our colors in, the black shading actually sits on top of it and it's not covered by the color. If you're working in traditional medium, it would be the other way around. You're going to put your color over the top of the black shading, and this is the way the black shading sort of seeps through into your color work and makes it look like a shadow. So the first color we're going to work with is red. We're going to go ahead and take sort of a crimson red, and you're just going to go crazy and put red everywhere. Basically all the spots on your design that you want red, you're going to go ahead and do that. I try to keep the colors fairly consistent across the board with traditional work, so I don't like to vary the colors too much. I try to stick to yellows, reds, and greens for the most part, but you can play around with it and sort of, you know, do whatever you'd like. So we've dropped in all of the parts that we wanted to do red. We're going to go ahead and take our yellow now. We're going to take like an orange yellow, similar to the one that we use with our deep yellow for the Ecoline brush pens. And we're going to go ahead and select our wing areas. Basically color yellow towards the top, leaving a little bit of white area. And we're going to do this for the wings. We'll select these rings here on both of the wings and do them yellow. I'll leave the top wings with a bit of a highlight there. This will help make them look a little bit shiny. I'm going to do these bottom part of the wing completely yellow on both sides. And around our flowers are going to be yellow also. One last part we're going to use the yellow for is the sort of bumped border at the edge here. We're just going to do solid yellow across that area. So I think the last sort of colors we're going to use is green and a little bit of pink, although you would just use your red and blend that out. But we're going to go ahead and take a green, but I think I want this to be a little bit more of a teal green. Maybe like this sort of tone. We'll see how that comes along. And you're basically going to color like that. I think that's going to be the right green that I'm going for. So you're going to go ahead and add a little bit of that. I'll do the eyes in that color also. And then just select these rings on the body. And basically blend over top of your black. And just leave a little bit of white down the very center for a highlight. To color the flowers, you're going to go ahead and select each of the petals on all of your flowers. And then we're just going to take our red up to more of a pink tone. And we're just going to come and blend out from the center into each of our petals, leaving white along the border of each of them. This will give us a nice soft look for our flowers. And that's basically it, guys. That's how you can draw a traditional style moth on the iPad Pro, or like I said, using the tracing method of folding the page in half and using your light pad to see through it. And we used really traditional colors here and gave this a nice traditional style look. If you like this video, please give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section down below letting me know what you'd like to see next time. Like I said, I'm enjoying seeing your artwork, so head over to Facebook at Daggett Designs to see my online portfolio, or to flick me a message with one of your artworks and I'll let you know what I think. And if you're new to my channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss a new video every time they come out. Okay guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.